February 24th, 1944. Night sky over Anzio, Italy. 2 complete SCR 584s were rushed into the chaos on February 24th, 1944, and dug in up to their trailer rooftops overnight. The next darkness saw 12 Nazi bombers entering beachhead airspace, only to lose 7 of them to the 90mm guns directed by SCR 584. The mathematics of this night would puzzle German intelligence for the remainder of the war. 7 of 12 bombers destroyed in complete darkness, a 58% kill rate that defied everything known about anti-aircraft warfare. Before this night, even in perfect daylight conditions, anti-aircraft guns averaged 1 kill for every 2,500 shells fired. The surviving German crews reported something unprecedented. Flak bursts that tracked their every maneuver, explosions that appeared exactly where aircraft would be seconds in the future, anti-aircraft fire that seemed to predict their decisions before they made them. What destroyed these aircraft wasn't superior marksmanship or lucky shots. It was the SCR 584, an automatic tracking microwave radar system that would revolutionize air defense. This technology would remain largely unknown to German forces throughout the war, even as it systematically eroded the Luftwaffe's combat effectiveness. The Germans had flown into the future of warfare, and they didn't even know it. The crisis for the Luftwaffe had been building since 1940, when British scientists shared the cavity magnetron with America through the Tetzard mission. The British scientists brought their highly classified invention key to developing the desired powerful radar systems, the 10-centimetre cavity magnetron. This single act of technology transfer would have consequences that neither ally fully anticipated. While German radar development continued along conventional paths using meter-wave technology, American engineers at MIT's Radiation Laboratory were developing something revolutionary. The SCR 584 was a marvel of its time, able to detect an aircraft out to a distance of 40 miles and achieve a range accuracy of 75 feet. The system operated on microwave frequencies that German detection equipment simply couldn't perceive. The system operated at frequencies between 2,700 and 2,900 MHz, 10 to 11 centimeter wavelength, sending out 300 kilowatt pulses of 0.8 microseconds in duration, with a pulse repetition frequency of 1,707 pulses per second. German radar warning receivers, designed to detect British radars operating at 200 to 600 MHz, were completely blind to these emissions. The technological gap went deeper than mere frequency differences. The SCR 584 employed automatic tracking using conical scanning. The radar beam rotated around its axis, creating a cone-shaped pattern that could lock onto and follow moving targets without human intervention. When integrated with the M9 gun director, an analog computer containing 160 vacuum tubes, the system could calculate firing solutions 30 times per second, accounting for wind speed, air density, target velocity, and gravitational drop. The deployment at Anzio marked a watershed moment in anti-aircraft warfare. Air attacks stopped for a week. A single plane appeared to test the defences, only to be destroyed. 10 more systems were in place that week and eliminated the air threat to Anzio. German bomber crews, who had successfully attacked Allied positions for years, suddenly found themselves facing something unprecedented. The system's effectiveness stemmed from its complete automation. Once the SCR 584's operator acquired a target and switched to automatic tracking, the radar locked onto the aircraft and followed it regardless of evasive maneuvers. The tracking data fed directly to the M9 director, which computed the future position where shell and aircraft would meet. 4 90mm guns, slaved to the director, moved in perfect synchronization. German crews reported a phenomenon they couldn't explain: flak bursts that seemed to anticipate their evasive maneuvers. When they dove, shells exploded where they would be at the bottom of the dive. When they turned, explosions appeared along their future flight path. This wasn't the barrage fire they knew. It was precision shooting by machines that calculated faster than humans could react. While German scientists hand-built radar sets in small workshops, American industry mass-produced the SCR 584 with automotive efficiency. About 1,700 SCR 584 workhorses were produced to provide defense against air attacks. The primary manufacturer, Chrysler Corporation, applied assembly line techniques that transformed radar production from craft manufacturing to industrial process. By August 31, 1943, 610 systems had been shipped. Dodge Division delivered system number 1470 on January 28, 1944, with 628 additional sets going to the U.S. Marine Corps, Coast Defense, and for spares, for a total of 2,098. This single company's output exceeded the entire German radar production for the war. The contrast revealed fundamental differences in industrial philosophy. German Würzburg radar sets required skilled technicians for assembly, with each unit slightly different. The SCR 584 used interchangeable parts and modular construction, allowing rapid field repairs by soldiers with basic training. Where Germany built dozens, America built thousands. The June 6, 1944 invasion included 39 systems, thwarting Luftwaffe attacks on the beaches. These radar units, specially waterproofed for the amphibious assault, created an unprecedented defensive umbrella over history's largest invasion fleet. Oberst Josef Pips Priller, one of only 2 Luftwaffe pilots to attack the invasion beaches on D-Day, survived to provide testimony about the experience. In his post-war debriefing, he described anti-aircraft fire unlike anything encountered in 5 years of combat. Not barrage patterns, but aimed shots that forced constant evasive maneuvering, making accurate attacks impossible. The Luftwaffe's failure at Normandy wasn't due to lack of courage or skill. German pilots flew into a technological trap they didn't understand. The few who survived reported the same phenomenon witnessed at Anzio: anti-aircraft fire that seemed to read their minds, predicting maneuvers before they were executed. The defense against Hitler's 5-1 vengeance weapons provided the clearest demonstration of the SCR 584's revolutionary capabilities. The flying bombs, travelling at 400 miles per hour in straight lines at constant altitude, should have been ideal targets, yet their speed made them nearly impossible to hit with conventional aiming methods. 20 SCR 584s were assigned to England's Channel coast to reduce the number of V-1 flying bombs hitting London. The 80 guns, using new proximity-fused shells, destroyed hundreds. On one Sunday, 97 of 101 were shot out of the sky. The statistics documented a revolution in anti-aircraft effectiveness. 17% of all flying bombs entering the coastal gun belt were destroyed by guns in the first week on the coast. This rose to 60% by 23 August and 74% in the last week of the month, when on one extraordinary day 82% were shot down. The rate increased from 1 V1 for every 2,500 shells fired to 1 for every 100. This 25-fold improvement in ammunition efficiency represented more than incremental progress. It marked the point where defensive weapons achieved superiority over attacking aircraft. German observers on the French coast reported V-1s being destroyed with short, precise bursts of 3 or 4 shells, a sight that contradicted everything they understood about anti-aircraft warfare. The German failure to identify the SCR 584 threat stemmed from a fundamental scientific miscalculation. In January 1943, German radar experts, led by Professor Abraham Esau, convinced the High Command that centimetre-wave radar was physically impossible. They argued that insufficient energy would return to receivers at such frequencies to be useful for detection. Based on this flawed theoretical analysis, Germany terminated all microwave radar research. When German forces captured a British H-2S radar in February 1943 and discovered it operated on centimetre waves, the revelation came too late. Germany had already fallen years behind in microwave technology, a gap that proved impossible to close during wartime. German intelligence consistently misinterpreted mounting evidence of Allied radar superiority. Pilot reports of impossible anti-aircraft accuracy were attributed to improved training, optical sights, or simply more guns. The possibility that Americans had achieved automatic radar tracking at microwave frequencies remained beyond German conception until late 1944. Throughout 1944, Luftwaffe electronic warfare units operated with equipment designed for an earlier war. The Fu-G227 Flensburg detector searched for frequencies between 170 and 220 MHz. The Fu-G350 Naxos covered 2,500 to 3,750 MHz, closer to the SCR 584's range, but still unable to reliably detect its emissions. More fundamentally, German radar detectors were designed to identify search radars that swept beams across aircraft briefly. The SCR 584's conical scanning, which maintained continuous lock on single targets, produced emission patterns that German equipment didn't recognize as threatening. Luftwaffe crews flew into radar-guided death traps while their warning receivers remained silent. The system produced by Chrysler Corporation was named SCR 584 and was teamed with a heavy anti-aircraft battery of 4 90mm guns, a British-invented IFF identification, friend or foe unit, a power source, and an M9 gun director. Each component represented American engineering superiority. The cavity magnetron generated 300 kilowatts of microwave power, more than entire German radar installations. The servo mechanisms for automatic tracking achieved precision that German industry couldn't replicate. The M9 director performed ballistic calculations that would have required teams of human computers. The integration of these technologies into a single weapon system represented a conceptual leap that German military thinking hadn't achieved. Designated the SCR 584 anti-aircraft gun laying system, about 1,500 of these were used in Europe and the Pacific starting in early 1944. Each system could track aircraft at 600 miles per hour, faster than any operational aircraft of 1944, providing future-proofing that proved valuable when German jets appeared. By mid-1944, the Luftwaffe faced a crisis of unsustainable attrition. Galland reported that Luftflotte Reich had lost 38% of its fighter pilots in April 1944, while Luftflotte 3 had lost 24%. Altogether, the Germans had lost 489 pilots, 100 officers, Galland reported, while training centres had forwarded only 396 new pilots, including 62 officers. These losses weren't solely from air combat. Increasingly, experienced pilots fell to anti-aircraft fire that exhibited impossible accuracy. Ground attack aircraft, essential for Wehrmacht tactical doctrine, became particularly vulnerable when operating within the SCR 584's optimal tracking envelope. Adolf Galland, in his post-war memoir The First and the Last, wrote, "By 1944, approaching Allied positions meant entering zones where death was mathematically calculated. The guns didn't aim where we were, but where we would be. There was no tactics against it, no countermeasure, only luck." In December 1944, during the Ardennes offensive, German forces finally captured a damaged but complete SCR 584 near St. Vith. Dr. Hans Plendl, Germany's leading radar expert, led the technical examination. His report to the High Command was devastating. "The Americans have achieved automatic tracking with accuracy we believed impossible. They operate on wavelengths we cannot detect or jam with existing equipment. Most significantly, they mass-produce these systems while we struggle to build laboratory prototypes. We are not months behind, we are years behind with no possibility of catching up." The captured system revealed innovations that German science had deemed theoretically impossible: automatic tracking maintaining lock despite target maneuvers, electronic computation of three-dimensional firing solutions, and seamless integration of radar, computer, and weapons. But this knowledge came too late to develop countermeasures or equivalent systems. The technological helplessness experienced by Luftwaffe pilots contributed to the January 1945 fighter pilots' revolt. Leading aces, including Adolf Galland, Johannes Steinhoff, and Günther Lützow, confronted Hermann Göring directly about the impossibility of their situation. Johannes Steinhoff, with 176 confirmed victories, told Göring, "We are not fighting enemy pilots anymore. We are fighting mathematics calculated by machines. Individual skill has become irrelevant against automation. You blame us for lacking courage, but courage cannot defeat technology we don't possess." These weren't defeatists, but Germany's most decorated warriors. Their recognition that traditional military virtues had become obsolete against automated weapons represented a profound psychological breaking point. Göring's response, relieving Galland of command and threatening courts-martial, demonstrated leadership's inability to accept technological reality. Even the revolutionary Mi-262 jet fighter provided no escape from SCR 584 directed fire. The jet's 540 miles per hour speed, which made them nearly untouchable by Allied fighters, meant nothing to radar systems designed to track targets at 600 miles per hour. Oberstleutnant Heinz Baer, one of Germany's most successful jet pilots, reported after the war, "We believed our speed would protect us from flak. Instead, we discovered the American guns tracked us perfectly. The shells arrived exactly where we would be. Speed only meant less time to evade. We lost several jets to anti-aircraft fire that exhibited impossible accuracy." The SCR 584's ability to track and destroy jet aircraft demonstrated American foresight that German planning lacked. Built to specifications exceeding any aircraft operational in 1942, it remained effective against technology that wouldn't appear until late 1944. The production statistics revealed an industrial mismatch that doomed Germany regardless of tactical innovation. American production Chrysler Corporation alone, 2,098 units. Total confirmed production, over 1,700 units minimum. Additional units from General Electric and Westinghouse. Cost reduction from $50,000 to under $10,000 per unit. Monthly production rate, 50-plus units at peak. German production total Würzburg radar. Production, approximately 1,500 units, entire war. All German radar types combined, approximately 4,000 units, each unit essentially hand-built. No significant cost reduction achieved. Limited production capacity throughout war. This disparity reflected deeper advantages in American industrial culture. The SCR 584 was designed for operation by drafted civilians with 6 weeks of training. German radar systems required engineers and technicians with months of specialized education. Beyond specifications, the SCR 584 demonstrated practical advantages that amplified its effectiveness: setup and mobility, operational within 30 minutes of arrival, compared to hours for German systems. This mobility proved crucial in Italy's fluid campaign, where the SCR 584 provided immediate air defense for advancing forces. Weather independence, continued operation in rain, snow, and fog that blinded optical systems. German radar performance degraded significantly in adverse weather. Maintenance simplicity. Modular construction allowed component replacement by operators. German systems required specialized technicians for even minor repairs. Crew requirements: 3 operators versus 8 for the German Würzburg Riese. Field Marshal Albert Kesselring testified after the war. American radar-controlled anti-aircraft fire made our tactical air support impossible by early 1944. The Wehrmacht, which had pioneered combined arms warfare, found itself fighting blind while the Allies observed everything from above. The campaign against V-1 flying bombs provided quantifiable proof of revolutionary advancement. Week 1, 17% interception rate, conventional methods. Week 4, 60% interception rate. Week 8, 74% average interception rate. Best day, 82% interception rate. Ammunition efficiency, improved 25-fold. These statistics represented the first time in warfare that defensive guns achieved consistent superiority over attacking aircraft. The V-1, essentially a primitive cruise missile, flew predictable paths that should have made it an easy target. Yet its 400 miles per hour speed had made it nearly invulnerable to conventional anti-aircraft methods. The SCR 584 changed that equation completely. German electronic warfare, highly successful against British radars early in the war, proved completely ineffective against the SCR 584. The Luftwaffe's sophisticated jamming equipment, operating on meter wavelengths, had no effect on microwave systems. German Düppel, chaff, cut to meter wavelengths, was equally useless. The failure went beyond equipment limitations. German electronic warfare doctrine assumed adversaries used similar technology. The possibility that Americans operated on completely different physical principles remained unconsidered until captured equipment revealed the truth. By then, Germany lacked the resources and time to develop new countermeasures. The SCR 584's influence extended beyond aircraft destroyed. By making German reconnaissance impossible, it blinded Wehrmacht intelligence. German commanders couldn't observe Allied preparations, track troop movements, or identify weak points. This intelligence vacuum contributed directly to German strategic failures throughout 1944–45. General der Panzertruppe Hasso von Manteuffel, commanding 5th Panzer Army during the Battle of the Bulge, stated, "We attacked blind in the Ardennes. Our reconnaissance aircraft couldn't survive over Allied lines. We knew nothing of enemy reserves or movements. The element of surprise, essential to our plan, was impossible when only one side could see." For Luftwaffe air crews, the SCR 584 represented something psychologically devastating. Death delivered by machines that eliminated human skill from combat. Pilots who had trained for years, survived hundreds of missions, and earned their nation's highest decorations found themselves helpless against automation. The testimony of survivors reveals the psychological impact. Hauptmann Heinrich Baer, who ended the war with 220 victories, stated, "Fighting enemy pilots was war as we understood it, skill against skill, courage against courage. But the radar-guided guns weren't warfare, they were execution by mathematics. There was no honour in dying to a machine's calculations." This dehumanization of combat affected morale more than simple fear of death. Luftwaffe pilots had accepted mortality as part of their warrior ethic. What they couldn't accept was irrelevance, the reduction of their skills and experience to meaningless factors in an equation they couldn't influence. After Germany's surrender, Allied intelligence officers demonstrated the SCR 584 to captured Luftwaffe officers. Their reactions ranged from amazement to bitter recognition. Many expressed relief at finally understanding what they had faced. Dr. Wilhelm Runge, who had worked on German radar development, admitted in 1985, "We dismissed every report that contradicted our assumptions about American capabilities. We created elaborate theories to explain impossible anti-aircraft accuracy rather than accept the simple truth. They had better technology. This arrogance cost thousands of lives." The German military's institutional inability to recognize American technological superiority stemmed from deeper cultural assumptions. The Wehrmacht, which had pioneered military innovation in the 1930s, couldn't conceive that American engineers had surpassed German science. This blindness persisted even as evidence mounted throughout 1944. After the war, the radar was adapted for use in the AN/MPQ-12 and AN/MPM-38 systems, a U.S. Army Field Artillery Missile System, MGM-5 Corporal. The principles established by the SCR 584, automatic tracking, computer-controlled prediction, and systems integration, became fundamental to all subsequent air defense systems. Every modern surface-to-air missile system descends conceptually from the SCR 584. It proved that effective air defense required removing human reaction time from the engagement cycle. This lesson, learned through the destruction of the Luftwaffe's combat power, shaped military technology development throughout the Cold War and beyond. While complete statistics remain elusive due to wartime record destruction, available data demonstrates the SCR 584's devastating effectiveness. Confirmed production: minimum 1,700 units manufactured. Chrysler alone, 2,098 units documented. Peak production: 50+ units monthly. Combat effectiveness: Anzio first night, 7 of 12 bombers destroyed, 58% kill rate. V1 peak performance, 82% interception rate. Ammunition efficiency, 25-fold improvement. D-Day deployment, 39 units provided complete air defense. Technological advantages: detection, 40 miles, double German capability. Accuracy, 75 feet versus German 500+ feet. Tracking, fully automatic versus German manual. Setup time, 30 minutes versus German 2+ hours. The German encounter with the SCR 584 offers enduring lessons about technological surprise in warfare. Convinced of their superiority, constrained by theoretical assumptions, and unable to imagine American innovation, German leaders sent air crews to face a threat they didn't understand and couldn't counter. General der Flieger Paul Deichmann summarized the failure. "We believed what we wanted to believe. Every piece of contradictory evidence was explained away. We couldn't accept that American engineers had achieved what our scientists declared impossible. By the time we faced reality, the Luftwaffe as an effective force had ceased to exist." The failure wasn't primarily intelligence gathering, but intelligence interpretation. German observers reported American anti-aircraft effectiveness accurately. The reports were dismissed because they contradicted institutional assumptions about American capabilities. This cognitive blindness proved more damaging than any security breach could have been. The SCR 584 embodied American industrial philosophy: mass production, standardization, and simplification. Rather than crafting perfect individual units, American engineers designed for reliable mass manufacture. This approach, derived from automotive production, proved superior to German craft precision for military applications. The contrast extended to operational philosophy. German military culture emphasized expertise and specialization. American design emphasized simplification and automation. The SCR 584 succeeded because it removed human skill from the equation, making expertise unnecessary. This democratization of advanced technology proved decisive in total war. The SCR 584 marked the end of aerial warfare as a contest of human skill. It initiated the age of automated combat that continues today. For the Luftwaffe, this transition came as an incomprehensible shock. They had entered the war as knights of the air and ended it as victims of mathematical calculations. Johannes Steinhoff, reflecting decades after the war, provided perhaps the most insightful assessment. The SCR 584 didn't just shoot down our aircraft. It shot down our entire conception of warfare. We thought war was about courage, skill, and will. The Americans proved it was about technology, production, and automation. We were magnificent warriors defeated by superior machines. The SCR 584 radar system stands as one of World War II's most decisive weapons, not for the aircraft it destroyed, but for what it represented: the triumph of systematic technological superiority over traditional military virtues. The Luftwaffe faced an enemy that couldn't miss because it eliminated human error from the aiming process. German pilots never fully understood what they faced because their leadership couldn't accept its existence. Reports of impossible anti-aircraft accuracy were dismissed as exaggeration. Evidence of automatic tracking was ignored as impossible. By the time German scientists examined captured SCR 584 units and understood the technology, the Luftwaffe had been reduced to ineffectiveness. The Germans never knew American radar devastated the Luftwaffe because acknowledging that reality would have required admitting fundamental inferiority in science, industry, and military innovation. That psychological barrier proved insurmountable until defeat made denial impossible. For the Luftwaffe aircrews who faced it, the SCR 584 was death calculated by machines, delivered with mathematical precision, and immune to human courage or skill. They flew into an electronic killing field where their fate was computed before they arrived. The age of warrior pilots ended in the skies over Europe, destroyed by American radar that tracked invisibly, calculated instantly, and killed automatically. The legacy of the SCR 584 extends beyond its wartime service. It established the template for modern air defense and proved that in technological warfare, the side that automates the kill chain wins. The Luftwaffe learned this lesson through the destruction of its combat power, aircraft by aircraft, calculated and delivered by machines that never tired, never missed, and never knew mercy. The Germans never knew, until too late, that they weren't fighting American gunners but American mathematics, embodied in radar systems that turned the sky itself into a computed killing zone. Their courage, skill, and experience became irrelevant factors in equations they couldn't see, couldn't jam, and couldn't survive. In that terrible revelation lay the birth of modern warfare, where victory belongs not to the brave but to the technologically superior.